Tonight's really an opportunity to really for you all to ask your questions ultimately and to learn a little bit more about the training. Obviously, the website incorporates a number of bits of information, but we really find that open evenings supports us to really give everything some legs. And so that's what we're going to be working on really tonight or sharing. So really you're all an example of why this training even exists and why meditation exists. And life is really challenging. It's what we signed up for. We've forgotten that that we chose that, but life's challenging enough without it. And it's still challenging with it. It's certainly not the panacea, but it becomes a really firm foundation of anchoring as we navigate our way through life and its beauty and its richness, but also its challenges. And so for us, and particularly for me, it was really important to create a facilitator training that was designed for people who could cover a variety of techniques. Over the last sort of 20, 25 years, the number of people I've met that said, oh, I've tried meditation, I can't do it, I can't stop thinking. That's not really the point. And so sometimes people can have an idea about meditation that isn't always true. I think it's always interesting that in a physically obsessed world, the form of yoga that's really come forwards most is the form of asana, which of course is one of the forms of yoga, but meditation being on the seventh rung of the 8 limbs and has been shared through many different lineages is a really powerful tool for us to connect into as a way to support our personal life, our working life, what we're here for, our dharma, etc. So as a result of that, I've written the 110-hour Meditation Australia accredited program, and it's based on having 60 hours face-to-face over 4 weekends, covering 4 key modules, and also covering a number of different techniques. So often in the past you may have been or heard of or given one particular technique, but in our modern world, one size does not fit all. So ultimately what we have wanted to do is bring in a number of approaches that allow us to be able to provide a real toolbox for you so that whoever you have in front of you can tap into, whether it's walking meditation, whether it's sound healing, whether it's mantra repetition, whether it's mindfulness techniques, whether you want to teach children, whether you're bringing in meditation to trauma and there needs to be a more specialist field. There's so many different types of meditation techniques. And so for us, what's really important is that we teach you all of those techniques so that you can reach as many people as possible, rather than feeling like, well, there's only one way and it's this way, and if you don't do it this way, you're not really meditating. And so of course, really from the Buddhist text, mindfulness has always existed. This has really been brought to the forefront through Jon Kabat-Zinn in the 1970s. A lot of research has been conducted on mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so there's thankfully now a lot of research. 20 years ago, meditation research really was around the TM variation of meditation, which of course is transcendental meditation, which is the use of japa or a mantra that you're given. And so we want to provide students with different mantras that are relevant to them and what they're wanting to move through. So as we really bring forward the deep roots and the deep traditions, because I mean, let's face it, the yogis knew what they were doing. What we're also really able to do is to bring forwards the research and the science that's really now backing that up. So if you're wanting to take meditation and mindfulness into mainstream spaces, like through the Department of Education, or maybe in the emergency services, like for example, the police service or the ambulance service, into paramedics, etc., you've got that research base in order to take that forwards. Statistically speaking, particularly in emergency services, when you look at police officers now who are starting to bring in different techniques of meditation and mindfulness that have been used in the military for the last 20 years, pranayama practices, breathing practices that are also incorporated to support PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. There's that huge recognition and also welcome in of these teachings and these techniques into spaces beyond the yoga studio. So really for us, our goal at Moksha is to feel like we're taking the teachings from the monasteries and then we're bringing into the spaces where they're needed most. What's also really key, and Jamie, you touched on this in your introduction, is what's really key is your own sadhana, your own practice, your own direct experience of these teachings. You can understand meditation in theory. It's another thing to understand it in practice. So this is also about not just supporting you to become a facilitator of these teachings, but also these really don't become true for you until you experience all of these yourselves. So this is really about establishing all of the techniques that we bring in and the pathways within which we guide you into the state of meditation so that you can start to practice these cells and cultivate a daily sadhana. And interestingly enough, when we talk about a daily sadhana, we talk about often students' feedback is, I can't sit here for a whole hour. I come in from work, I sit down, and I'm like, right, I want to meditate. There's actually a pathway within which we follow to go into that meditative state. It's about establishing the seat, coming to an intention of the purpose of why you're there, withdrawing of the senses, being aware of how you're feeling from a whole perspective through the panchakosha, the 5 layered self, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. What are you bringing to your meditation pillow or your cushion that morning? And then we start to move into pranayama techniques, which are the breathing practices that shift the nervous system from that very sympathetic base into the parasympathetic space. We support vagal tone. If any of you studied polyvagal theory, particularly in trauma-related spaces, you'll have an understanding of how that is really quite impactful. And recognizing then that you can bring in the different techniques that we cover throughout the training. So you're really given a format within which to follow so that you can then take that format out. So along the way with your training, what you'll find is one of the first things you do in the first month after the first weekend is actually start to attend other meditation classes and observe them and start to pick up from other teachers, facilitators, what they're bringing in, what they covered, how did the students respond, how did you respond, what music was there, what poetry was there, what writings were shared, what props were used, were you made welcome, were you offered for questions. That's a really important space to come from. And then you go straight into creating 5 individual class plans. And then you go into how do you create a course so that people who have never done yoga before can actually be taught as a collective group from beginning to end. And then the final assignment is actually you delivering either 5 classes or the whole course, whichever you choose, because really your practice in teaching comes from actually teaching yourself and delivering to others. And so by the end of the training, we really want you to be really confident in being able to hold space for a group. Certainly a lot of people come to meditation and mindfulness classes either as drop-in every week or once in a while, or sometimes people don't want to join an established group, they actually want to learn from scratch. So we want you to be able to create that for your potential students moving forwards. So we cover a number of different areas, including, as I've spoken about before, the art and science of the mindfulness and the science beneath that. Different relaxation techniques, guided visualizations. Part of that also includes a practice called yoga nidra, which is yogic sleep. So yoga nidra, which is normally 15 to 20 minutes, equates to about 20 or 2 hours of a cellular rest. So it's actually really, there's lots of science now that's coming in and coming forwards that's really honoring and acknowledging how powerful deep rest is. and sleep as far as our mental health is concerned. We also look at practices, for example, that withdraw the senses, which is pratyahara, and then dharana, which is meditation techniques, mala, mantra, japa, sankalpa, and intention setting, the use of affirmations, what's the deep history of the yogic roots, and how can we bring these forwards into the modern world. Prarthana as well, there's lots of science about prayer and how prayer is a really fundamental way in which we can support and nourish the healing process. And then of course there's specialist areas, for example, how do you facilitate meditation mindfulness in a trauma environment? As I mentioned before, a lot of people come to meditation mindfulness to manage stress. There was a study in 2016 that highlighted that often people who come to meditation mindfulness who don't know they're sitting on trauma, it can actually bring trauma to the surface. So learning how to hold space for your students as that rises is really important for you and for them within that facilitator space. Also, meditation mindfulness techniques are also used in pain management. Chronic pain, for example, meditation can be a really powerful and healing tool. And so we also bring in a lot of the neuroscience and the physiology within how do we biochemically, systemically, neurologically manage our emotions and feelings and experiences from a somatic perspective. How do we embody that, and how can this healing practice come in? And then of course we explore concepts like the science of sound, quantum physics. We study meditation that's used in immunology. So a lot of chronic diseases where there's an autoimmune condition, there's lots of research now that's coming in. So we really try to marry up the real traditional roots of this beautiful practice, but also the science to underpin it and support it, but also the systemic physiological impact of this practice as we become consistent. So of course in our modern world, this is also about understanding the psychophysiology of stress and how our daily lives have got faster, quicker, more, higher demands. People, particularly after last year, everything has turned its life upside down. The life that we had before COVID has changed. People are reflecting on how they want to live and also how they don't want to live anymore, which is just as an important a question to have, and how they're living, and also how they're living their purpose, not just their life within what their dharmic field is, but also how are they living what they feel they were born here to share. So all of that incorporates a number of different research studies supporting that, so that you too have, it's not just me sharing that, it's also been thoroughly researched, but of course through your own direct experience you'll feel that too. What this training also includes, particularly for those of you who want to add this either to your existing fields, or some of you may want to complete career change and actually want to bring this in separately. We talk about how you can actually establish meditation classes, whether that's in a yoga studio, a spa space, in a corporate field, for example, where you really feel called to share it. We want to support you to know how to do that, creating workshops or short courses, etc. Managing students and their responses, the ethics, of course, that we have to have as facilitators, but also how you can build this in your own field, whether you're establishing a new business within this field or adding in your existing, etc. So over these 4 weekends, we explore this all together. The container is strong. It's a powerful journey of transformation. Any of you who have studied this work know that you're going into it as a facilitator, but it is a very personal, transformative experience at the same time. Those of you who are here would have felt a calling to share this almost beyond your own thought of, I'd like to do this. It's actually from another space. And so this is what you explore as you move through the training. I know Geraldine, you said, I don't really know where this is this is going to take me, but life already does. The students that you don't even know are out there are already out there. So all that you need to do is to keep the channel open and stay attuned to what you feel your gift is, and then share it in the way that you feel that it needs to be shared.